Are you tired of those boring old PC cases holding your dream build back? I mean, all that cutting-edge hardware you're planning to put in do need a proper home. That's why today, we're looking into the top 5 best PC cases of 2024 that will take your rig where it truly belongs. We're talking smart features, killer cooling, stunning looks, and more. So, let's get right into it. We're beginning with Corsair's Carbide 275R. Now, when it comes to PC cases, Corsair always knows its way around. They've got some really impressive high-end options like the massive 1000D, but they also make great affordable cases for more modest budgets, which the Carbide 275R makes a perfect example of. It's a mid-tower that looks way more premium than its petty price tag. The design is clean and simple, nothing too flashy or divisive, just a well-executed, straightforward case that lets your hardware take center stage. And speaking of your hardware, that full-height side panel gives you a perfect view of everything inside. Building in the 275R should go smoothly too. There's a big cutout in the motherboard tray, so you don't have to remove the whole board just to swap out a CPU cooler or something. And when you do that, you can fit any mini ITX, micro ATX, or ATX motherboard in there. The cable management in this case is pretty good too. There is lots of room and options to route your wires cleanly, which is always nice. And that PSU shroud at the bottom is a really handy feature. It hides all the messy cabling from the power supply behind a matching metal cover, keeping things looking nice and tidy. You do only get a couple basic 120mm fans included, so if you're not using an AIO liquid cooler, you'll probably want to pick up some extra fans to help with airflow. That's an easy upgrade though. The only other small downside is the top I/O panel. It doesn't have a USB-C port, only 2 regular USB 2s, which is kind of becoming an expected feature these days, even on more budget-friendly builds. But that's a minor nitpick. Yet, for the money, this case is of great value. You can put together a really good-looking gaming PC in it without having to spend a ton. Leaves more of your budget for the important parts inside. You know those moments when your gaming PC starts sounding like a jet engine taking off? Not ideal when you're trying to stay focused, right? That's where a silent case like the Cooler Master Silencio S600 can really come in handy. On the outside, it's got a pretty simple, understated design. But on the inside, Cooler Master has packed in some smart engineering and high-quality sound-dampening materials to really cut down on any unwanted noise. Usually, that kind of noise insulation comes at the expense of airflow, but the S600 manages to stay pretty cool and well-ventilated despite its silent properties. Now, since noise reduction is a top priority, you'll want to make sure there's optimal cooling across all the key parts. That way, you can keep everything running nice and cool without cranking additional fans. Specs-wise, the Silencio S600 offers a good set of I/O options, including 2 USB 3.2 Gen 1 ports, a headphone or mic jack, and an SD card reader. It also offers plenty of storage flexibility with 1 optical drive bay, 5 spots for 2.5-inch drives, and 4 for 3.5-inch drives. That's a pretty comprehensive set of connectivity and expansion options to get for the price. The big decision is whether you want to go for maximum silence and keep the whole system enclosed, or if you'd still like a side panel to show off your gorgeous gaming hardware. Either way, the Silencio S600 provides a great foundation for a super quiet, high-performance PC build. Next, we have the NZXT H710i. There have been a lot of big fans of NZXT's H1 Mini ITX case ever since the original version came out. However, one thing many didn't love was the whole potentially catching on fire thing with the PCIe riser cable. But aside from that one specific problem, the H1 was a pretty fantastic little case to build a system in, and the updated H710i seems to address that major concern while keeping all the things that made the original so great. At first glance, the V2 looks pretty much identical. You'd be forgiven for thinking it's just a new version with an even safer PCIe riser. But NZXT has actually made some nice improvements to the overall design, even if it does make the case a bit bigger and heavier. The real beauty of the H1 is that it includes both a solid power supply and an effective liquid CPU cooler. For a mini ITX build, that's huge. You don't have to mess around with routing a tangled web of unnecessary PSU cables or stress about fitting a decent cooler into that tiny space. NZXT has taken care of those tricky bits for you. Now, one thing to keep in mind with the H710i is the clearance between the radiator fan and the top of your memory sticks. NZXT did increase the height a bit compared to the original, but with a max memory height of just 46mm, some taller DIMMs are still going to be a tight squeeze. For example, the Corsair Dominator DDR5 memory can be too tall to close the case properly. So, just be mindful of your RAM clearance if you're planning a build in the H710i. That said, NZXT has made the overall building process a lot easier with some smart design choices. The outside of the case has clear labels explaining how to access the toolless components. And inside, there are handy tags and stickers showing you exactly where everything goes and how to maneuver things around. So, even though it's a compact mini ITX chassis, the H1V2 is pretty well documented and straightforward to work with. Now, the hefty price tag is definitely going to be a tough sell for some people, but you have to remember this thing comes with a high-quality 750-watt SFX power supply and an AIO liquid cooler. So when you factor that in, the overall value proposition starts to make a lot more sense. NZXT's H-series cases have always been about clean, uncomplicated design, prioritizing convenience. And the latest H710i model keeps that theme going strong with a few nice modern updates. The overall look is still super sleek and straightforward, no crazy gamer aesthetics here. But NZXT has added a couple handy new features, like that front panel USB-C port and the option to vertically mount your GPU using a separate PCIe riser. They've also built in some integrated RGB lighting around the tempered glass side panel, which you can control through the NZXT Cam software and the onboard LED hub. It lets you easily manage the RGB and fan speeds to keep everything running cool and looking good. Speaking of cooling, the H710i has ventilation channels that run all the way around the sides to promote solid airflow, and it even comes with 4 pre-installed 120mm fans to get you started. But the real standout feature of the H710i has got to be the cable management. There's this big aluminum shroud that lets you route all your cables into the integrated channels on the backside of the case. It does an awesome job of keeping everything nice and tidy, with no clutter visible. And those built-in Velcro straps on the back are super handy for securing everything in place. Way better than those fiddly rubber grommets you find on some other mid-tower cases. So, if clean, clutter-free aesthetics are a priority for your build, the H710i's cable routing system is definitely a big plus. When it comes to sheer size and expandability, the Corsair Obsidian 1000D is in a league of its own. This thing is a full-on beast of a PC case, standing over 27 inches tall. I mean, you could practically build 2 complete systems inside this monster if you really wanted to. It's got space for up to 18, that's right, 18 cooling fans, and can support as many as 4 massive radiators all at the same time. So, no matter how intense your high-end gaming or workstation setup gets, the 1000D has you covered on the cooling front. You can fit some seriously beefy hardware in here too. We've seen builds with full eATX motherboards, as well as tiny little mini ITX boards tucked away inside. Beyond just the sheer size and cooling capacity, the 1000D has some really clever design features too. It's got this unique triple-chamber layout with convenient little French door-style storage compartments and telescoping radiator trays to make installation a breeze. And of course, being a 2024 model, it's got all the modern bells and whistles you'd expect. RGB front panel I/O, integrated fan lighting controls via Corsair's Commander Pro system, you name it. Honestly, the Obsidian 900D has long been the go-to choice for those over-the-top, no-holds-barred PC builds. But the 1000D really feels like it's taking that concept to the next level. Now, the obvious trade-off is the humongous price tag, which goes well above the prices of your regular pricey cases. But if you've got the budget to really go all out on a dream gaming rig or high-performance workstation, the 1000D could be the perfect foundation. Just be ready to make some serious room available on your desk. Thanks for sticking around. If you're looking for more content like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button on the channel. And don't forget to click the bell icon too, so you'll get notified every time we drop a new video at FlexiViews.